Earlier this year, I made a video talking about why I felt the choice to make a hypothetical third version of Pokemon Sword and Shield as a DLC package was the right call. To summarize my thoughts from then, I felt that the biggest downside to Sword and Shield was a lack of time to fully realize the concept of the wild area, and that shifting to build on that base game we already have with 2 expansions marked more time to improve and make Sword and Shield as good as they can be. So with that, I started the Isle of Armor very hopeful and excited to return to the world of Pokemon Shield, and was met with a wealth of new content to explore. The game adds new clothing options and customization for your trainers to make it even more representative of who you are, which is something that I always love to see in a game. I started my time with the expansion by flying to each and every boutique across Galar to see what outfits I could rock. With that out of the way, I did what the DLC wanted me to do. I hopped on a train and traveled to the Isle of Armor. The story is immediately introduced with a mishap regarding an NPC backing out of joining a local training dojo, leaving your character mistaken as the new recruit. It's a charming setup, it's something fun and fitting for the world of Pokemon and the atmosphere, and it immediately grabbed me more than the base game ever did with the introduction of Avery, your new rival for Shield, and I believe Clara if you have Sword. Avery greets you unaware of your status as League Champion for some reason, which kind of bugs me, but he's prepared to show off his skill as a Pokemon trainer. And as you expect, you wipe the floor with him, like every other character you fight in a Pokemon game, absolutely wiped. From there, the two of you have exchanges which allow for some teasing banter, and watching Avery spiral into insanity due to him realizing how average he is something very refreshing and adds to an over-the-top nature to this story. The game plays out like a shonen anime arc, and it's great. You have 3 challenges you must achieve to please your elderly master in hopes to achieve a great prize. You have an eccentric rival who is constantly lagging behind but is so annoyingly cocky that every time you get to pound them into the ground, put them in their place, feels good. And your new partner is an anime ninja bear. This is just all around good vibes. All that in mind, the story is actually pretty funny too. The characters like Mustard and Avery are written well and characterized in a more eccentric and personalized way than any of the other characters from the main game except for maybe Bede. Mustard is an unassuming old man who has a few tricks up his sleeves and may not be past his heyday, and a great attitude. Avery is bitter, jealous, and honestly as close as we may get to having a truly mean rival ever again. Despite the fact that you can easily burn through the story in an afternoon, which I did not do, I was entertained until the very end. But the real star here is the Isle of— oh my god, that whale lord! Sorry, the real star is the Isle of Armor. This expansion brings with it a new wild area with a fully realized ecosystem that makes it feel real. I'm pleased to say that with some exceptions, the new wild area is a vast improvement and gave me exactly what I was hoping for. I spent my early hours with the DLC just exploring the Isle, finding new items, NPCs, and hidden Diglets to earn some Alolan Pokemon for my decks. It was fun. The Isle of Armor is the concept of the wild area in the base game fully realized within the ambitions of Sword and Shield. Obviously, it's not the massive open-world Pokemon game so many people want, but looking back on why the wild area is exciting, it fixes most of my issues. The new region is inhabited by loads of normal people, students of the dojo, returning Pokemon, and fun new environments. There are multiple points of interest to explore, from the 2 towers integral to the story, named biomes, and the central dojo, which you can enter and upgrade. Most importantly, this wild area feels cohesive in its presentation of nature in this world. Beachfront leads into grasslands, which branches to caves and marshlands, building to high rises of arid dirt or thickly settled forests. Plus there's a whole ocean to explore with even more islands along the coastline. Tons of stuff to pick up, tons of new Pokemon to encounter. There's a lot to see. The Isle feels fully realized in its existence within the context of Galar and feels bigger than the main wild area. Just looking at the map, it's hard to tell if that's actually the case, but with the amount of variety and detail here, it makes it feel that way. I still feel like I haven't seen everything in the Isle of Armor, even though I've spent 5 or 6 hours exploring and playing through the story so far. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with the story personally, and I prefer it way more than the story of the main game. I enjoyed getting a new look for my trainer, love that Slowpoke sweater, and recruiting some of my favorite Pokemon of all time for my team felt satisfying. The main make or break for purchasing this DLC and whether or not you'll enjoy it is how much you like the concept of the wild area. And even though this wild area is a huge improvement over the base game for me, it's unfortunately met with the same technical issues and hiccups that the main game had. The game gets very framey playing with Y-comms, docked or handheld, and it does hurt the experience. It was frustrating, and even capturing footage, I had to shut it off because it was jarring. But if that wasn't a deal breaker for you before, it shouldn't be now. As great as this new wild area is at making you feel like an explorer, finding new Pokemon and exciting locations, I can't help but think there's a massive missed opportunity here to not have some of the NPCs scattered through the island be trainer battles. Outside of scripted story moments, you never face off against another trainer. And if the Isle of Armor is sort of a proof of concept for what a potential next-gen Pokemon game would be, fully open world, entirely based in the wild area, no routes, just a solid path of exploration, we're gonna have to see them implement trainer battles into this formula. It's worth acknowledging that the Isle of Armor is one half of a $30 expansion for Sword and Shield, which will be complete by the end of 2020. I really don't want to bring price into the review because it shouldn't be about price, but considering you can only buy the Isle of Armor in a package for $30 with the other DLC that's not out yet, I think in this case it's worth addressing. On its own, for $15 out of this $30 package, having these small additions like Pokemon following you, building up that initial roster again, more customization, a really fun story, and a new way to make Pokemon capable of Gigantamaxing, plus a fun, almost legendary partner and a close to fully realized wild area, make it worth it. Overall, I had fun with the Isle of Armor, and thanks to the new additions, it'll have me playing Shield pretty often throughout the rest of the year, especially with the Crown Tundra coming, which is more of a hook than the base game and its post-game content gave me because I really haven't played Shield much since I beat it last fall. And if the Crown Tundra expansion follows in the footsteps of this one, I could recommend the expansion to anyone who enjoyed Sword and Shield, or who was even left wanting more with the game like me.